Welcome to SkirtingBoards.com video channel. Today we're showing you how we make the cutters for our skirting boards. This video is going to be making read 1 profile, as you can see here. So first we'll start off with a template, which you can see on the left hand side is the negative of the finished board that we want to end up with. Now to do this we use blank cutters. First of all, you can see 2 blank cutters here that we'll be using to make our cutting tools. These tools will then be mounted on this, what we call a block, which will spin around quickly to cut into the wood to make the profile. Here's a set of finished cutters from our Jazz profile. Now this is the machine that will actually make the cutting tools from the blanks you saw earlier. Now we're just preparing this to take a new sleeve for the new tools. But first of all, we'll take the block that you saw earlier, we'll be putting this onto a setting machine, and we'll put the blank tools into the block and we'll line them up so that when they spin around they'll hit exactly the same place each time in a perfectly straight line. So there's a block that goes in front of the cutter and the cutter will slide on, and it needs to be a tight fit so that it doesn't move around. So we put this in place first. And we're going to check that this is in line. Now we always use 2 cutters so that when the block spins around it's got a cutter on both sides and the force is equal as the block spins around. So you can see we're setting them up on opposite sides of the block here. So we just move them around and to make sure that they are perfectly in line, because this is the most crucial part of the whole process. Setting the blocks up is important so that the profile is even all the way down, and is usually the biggest cause of problems with any profile on skirting boards. But once we're happy that these are in line, and the machine tells us that they are in line, it gives a once over with a visual inspection, and then these bolts here within the block inside are tightened up, and this will make sure that the cutters don't move. So both sides have to be tightened up to ensure that each side is kept nice and still. And then now we've got the blank cutters firmly fixed into the block. Now these are ready now to be molded into a new profile. Now this stopping tool will go on the end of the sleeve just to keep everything in place. So now this is ready to come off and to go on to the other machine you saw earlier to start cutting the tools. So now you can see on this tool cutting machine, and you can see the blue disc which will rotate and cut out the tool used for making the profile on the skirting board. Now you can see here the template that we made earlier sitting against what we call a tracing pin. Now this pin will move against the edge of the profile. We're moving the whole machine, which will move the blank cutting tool against the grinder, so it will slowly cut out the shape in the cutting tool using the grinder. Now it doesn't happen all at once, it happens in stages, so gradually you get closer and closer, as you can see here, to the edge of the profile, so it actually cuts out the shape that we need. We have different shaped tracing pins, some of them are round like this one, when we've got a rounded shaped profile. As you can see, a lot of the edges are rounded on this particular template, but sometimes it's quite a sharp or square edged profile such as Jazz, that will show you the template later. So for that we'll use a square shaped tracing pin, but this one is round since a lot of the edges are round in this particular template. So now from another angle, this is showing the actual grinding tool being cut itself. So we move it towards the grinding wheel right until it's just about touching it. So we're moving the wheel around until it's right on the very edge. So once this is ready, we'll put a cover over here. This is to stop any backsplash of water, because we use water to cool the metal as it's being ground. And now you can see the progress of the grinder making the profile. So clearly we've shortened the process here, but now you can see this is almost finished. So what we'll actually do is we'll take another little tool which takes off just the excess resin of the metal from the top and the bottom, which is produced when it's being ground. So now we've completed both profiles. So we just take the excess resin off each side of those so that it produces a nice, clean, sharp edge. So the grinder will have been at a different angle to produce a cutting edge, so it's not just totally flat, it's at an angle so that it will come round. It's got a sharp edge to it, as you can see here. Now this is the final production run. The cutters have been placed into a machine, and then the skirting board is placed through, and the cutters are making the profile in the board. So this is how your skirting boards are made, and how we end up with a redid one profile.